Okay. Uh, Good morning and happy Thursday. Welcome to the PT on Ice Daily Show. Coming to you live from the Pacific Northwest, just outside of Seattle. My name is Dr. Jim Shepard, and I'm going to be your host this morning, talking to you about a topic that is um, near and dear to my heart. And it is lovingly titled on this podcast, Battling the Bow, Strategies to Advance Your Needle Through Tough Tissues. And this topic was actually inspired recently by a course that I hosted, or actually I taught out in the beautiful Onward Wilmington in Delaware, where I encountered a higher number of students struggling a little bit with this concept of trying to get that needle. You've done everything right, and you're trying to get the needle through some tougher tissue. So, I'm going to talk to you all today about that. Hopefully, over the next several minutes, you'll have a tool or two that you can try if you dry needle. If you encounter tough tissue, that you can probably get it through. So, what we normally do in our courses, if you've ever taken one with ice and dry needling, is we start every class off with a banana, right? We use the banana to take the needle and give you an opportunity to put the needle in normal tissue, as close to human tissue as we can get. Um, and that gives you that smooth feeling as you move through muscle. I'm not using a banana today. I'm actually going to use an apple, right? And if you are wanting to practice these techniques I'm going to share with you today on some piece of fruit versus a person, which we all like to do usually, right, beforehand, an apple is a great tool, mainly because of the thickness of the fruit. So hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate this for you today in good fashion. So let me grab my needle and place it in the guide tube and get right to it. So, a technique to battle the bow, right? Maybe I first should show you what the bow tends to look like. So, let's get the needle into the apple. And this is what I'm talking about. If you can see this, I'll put it over here on YouTube and then come back over to Instagram. Try to contrast that with my sweatshirt. You can see as I'm trying to move that needle, it bows. And this can be kind of frustrating when you're trying to get your needle to that very strategic target that you identified. So, first thing I usually want to share with students and you all here joining me live is we like to create this thing called a kickstand when you're inserting. All right. And what does that kickstand look like? It usually means that you're taking some other part of the hand that you're needling or advancing the needle with and placing it on the tissue, right? So I like to use my ring finger or my pinky finger. My middle finger is just a little too close. And I will usually create this environment where I can apply a little more force, right? That's directing that needle straight down into my tissue. Okay. And I'm feeling a lot of thickness here. So there's a plenty of resistance, and I need that little kickstand to focus my force into the fruit or into the tissue. See if they can see that over here on YouTube, right? All right, so that's one, creating that kickstand. So instead of having your hand floating and battling that bow, you're going to create a little kickstand for yourself and insert the needle like so. Cool? All right, so that's one strategy. Another strategy, because sometimes that doesn't work, is to think about using your needle a bit like a screwdriver, right? So if you're trying to insert it, you've got your kickstand and it's still bowing. Oftentimes, you can take that needle head and twist it either clockwise or counterclockwise. Sometimes I'm asked, which one's better, Jim? It doesn't matter, just as long as you're creating a twist action and you're twisting and forcing the needle downward, right? So we like to call this a twist and advance. So you're going to twist the needle and advance it down into the tissue, a lot like a screwdriver, a little bit at a time. Okay, bring that over here. show you all on YouTube. Okay. So twist in advance. So that's a second one. Well, let's say, all right, I use the kickstand. I tried to twist it. It's still not going in. All right. Well, I'm going to get myself into a little bit of a different location here. Let's resheath my needle and get into just a little bit of a different spot on this apple here. Use my very firm tap. Okay. So I've tried all my strategies. I'm still getting the bow. Darn it all. Okay. Another thing that can be done is I like to call it a peck, peck, and push, right? So oftentimes we're a little bit, I don't know, I would say cautious is the term I like to use. Cautious as we're advancing that needle for the first time. And we often will do that in tissues where we're like, well, there's maybe something nearby that I want to be able to have a bailout quickly. If it's not going according to plan, right? I'm getting nervy words or they're not enjoying the experience and you want to be able to retreat, so to speak, and find something else. But what we often do when we're in that mindset is we are very careful with the needle advancement and it just won't move, right? So you've tried everything, it won't move. Peck, peck, push, right? Give it a little harder force. Peck, peck, push. Peck, peck, push, right? So it's this tiny little fast amplitude and then down in, right? Peck, peck, push. Okay. So if there's like a very tough layer of what I lovingly like to call a bit of body armor between the skin and the muscle, a peck, peck, push might be a really good strategy to try to get that needle through versus a smooth, steady mapping stroke. All right. So now you have three. You have a kickstand, you have a twist and advance, and then you have a peck, peck, push. Okay. All right. So all of those are great options when you are battling the bow of that needle. Another thing that I would really like to reiterate, and we teach this on our courses, is when you're trying to insert a needle and have really good success with it, it's not only what's happening with your needling hand that's critical and important to a successful entry of your dry needle, but your palpating hand as well. So it's worth discussing again that compressing and tensioning tissue is very, very important, right? To get all that tissue around it compressed and firmly placed against that target. So you have the shortest distance between your needle and what you're going after. Okay. So we teach with a bracketing or a direct technique to directly compress down on the tissue and tension the tissue by splaying our fingers out, right? And that creates a nice little insertion zone between your two fingers. All right. What I observe many times is students they're doing a great job. They compress tension. They get that needle placed in to the tissue. And as soon as they let their focus shift from this hand to the needling hand, the compression and tension leave, right? So if you're having trouble with an insertion, remember those three techniques, but also compress and tension the tissue, right? And keep that compression and tension until your needle has reached its target. All right, good. Okay, those are 4 tips so far, and I've got one more. I'm going to redo my needle again into my apple, and I'm going to try to demonstrate. Let's see, I'll do a compression tension, get my needle in, really focused. I'm super proud of myself. I did a great job trying to get that needle in. And oh man, okay, it's not going in. Okay. Now, sometimes we've tried everything, and then you've got somebody like me or another faculty looking at you, and you're like, I really truly know what I'm doing here. At least the last time I did it was great. Okay. Something that you can do that I like to advise students is to just take a moment to zoom out, right? And if you zoom out away, you can see that the angle that you've inserted the needle or where it's piercing the skin has an angle that looks like this. Pay attention to the angle that you're trying to push the needle through, right? Because what I'll see And it's not this egregious, right? It's not this angle change where it's up and down, but there might just be the slightest bit of change of angle that is creating that bow. All right. So you have to be mindful of you can get a little too zoomed in into the weeds and be focused, trying everything you can, and nothing's working. But if you just take a moment to zoom out, you're like, oh, all right. If I just adjust my angle from this to this, I might be able to get my needle through and down to the target. Okay. Right. So let's do a quick review here. We have a kickstand, right? Kickstand, use some part of your hand against the tissue to direct your force more focused into that insertional area. Okay. You also have an option of a twist, twist and advance, twist the needle head, advance it down a lot like a screwdriver would be going, pushing a screw into a piece of wood. All right. You also have the peck, peck, push, right? So instead of a really slow stroke, you can tap, 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 peck, 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 push, really do some higher amplitude directed force into the tissue, might break through that level of body armor, maintaining your compression and tension through the palpating hand, right? And then when all else fails, zoom out, take a quick peek. Often it will be the angle at which you're trying to advance the needle that just needs a very slight adjustment. Okay. So hopefully, these are all things that you are like, wow, I'm going to give that a try. Uh, take a really nice uh, fresh apple. I wouldn't use something that's soggy, something that has some good tension in it, and give this some practice, right? Grab one of your needles, try to advance it, see how an apple actually creates that density of tissue that is very similar to that patient where you're trying to get that needle into that strategic target and you're just battling the bow of the needle, right? So give it a try, see if it'll help you. Um, if you are at all interested in taking some dry needling courses with ice, we've got some really great content on tap here in the next 4 weeks. We've got 8 courses coming up. So this next weekend, the 22nd and 3rd, we've got our advanced course going on out in Greenville, South Carolina. And then the following week, we've got a triple header. So we're going to be doing upper body out in Minnesota. We've got a sold out course out in Ohio. And then I have the privilege of teaching a 1 day accelerator lab out here in Washington State, where we're taking a mixture of all the content and also giving some extra time with different types of stim machines. So it's going to be a really fun lab and only 1 day, right? A really fun one for a weekend. Then the weekend after that, we've got another advanced course happening out in Casper, Wyoming. And that following weekend, April 12th and 13th, we've got an advanced course in Bellevue, Washington, lower dry needling in Carson City, Nevada, and an upper body course out in Charlotte, North Carolina, right? We have tons of offerings throughout the year. So if any of those sound interesting to you, but the timing doesn't work, head on over to ptonice.com, check out the course offerings for dry needling, and you could probably find something near to you later on this year. So that'll do it for me on the Daily Show today. Thank you again for your attention. I appreciate it. And you all have a wonderful day and have fun trying these techniques to battle the bow with your strategy in dry needling. Take care, everyone.